I'm on a quest to automate all the create components on my giant oil rig factory, starting with the Andesite Age. And this is a diagram of what we're currently in the process of making. All of these recipes need to be constructed in order for us to complete the Andesite Age, well, at least the automation of it, and then we can move on to brass. So far, we have automated all the metals we're going to need, we've automated wood, we've even done this and automated redstone. However, we still need to make kelp, which we need to turn into cooked kelp. Not for eating, but we do need it for a few components. And now that we're making quartz and redstone, we need to automate the process of making rose quartz, which we can then turn into these electron tubes. And although they only get used in one component in the Andesite Age, they will come in useful in future ages when we automate those. So today, if we go over to this factory next door, this is what we were working on last episode. What I need to do is add a kelp farm. And I'm thinking what I might do is just have two sort of big round vats on the factory floor here that just spin around and make kelp. And then up here, we've got more than enough space to be able to automate our electron tubes. Then once we've done that, we should have all the basics we need to be able to start making our bigger factories. And I guess we're going to end up having some pretty large buildings on the back here so that we can automate all the andesite stuff and then all the brass age stuff. And then probably all the train stuff as well. We need to do that somewhere. So yeah, big buildings to come. For big buildings, however, small vats. I don't really have the right blocks on me to make that. So let's go back to base, collect some stuff, and then we can get building. Now, let's start by building some big old vats. I say big, but I don't think we're going to get them bigger than that, so I definitely want two. I'm going to use this iron sheet metal for these. I think this will look quite good. Just going to round these off on the outside a little bit with some copycat blocks. In fact, if we put some copycat bites in the corner as well, I think they might look better just with the bite blocks and not with the slabs. Yeah, that works. So, to make the actual part of this farm that's going to work, I think what we're going to want is 4 harvesters. And these wool in copycat blocks should be enough to power a windmill bearing, which we're going to put face down. Then what I'm going to do is stick a metal barrel under here for storage. Cover the sides of that up with wool as well, just so everything can attach. And I think if we put a chute there and a brass funnel there that empties into the chute like that, and hopefully as that spins round and chops up the kelp, it should straight away drop down into there and onto the floor below, I think. So let's just get this area filled up with water. We'll get some kelp growing. In fact, what I'm also going to do is get all of this stuck together. Right, well, it's spinning. Let's get some kelp planted. So the kelp is currently floating. It's not being picked up. Is that because it doesn't like the barrel that I've used on here? Let's just replace the metal barrel with a normal one. Try that again. Okay, well, it definitely got harvested that time, but it hasn't been dropped onto the floor. Nope, it's just staying in the barrel. Well, it was worth a try, but if that's not going to work, then what we'll do instead is just bring that down. And if we just put a portable storage interface in like that, is that going to connect? Just stick that on there. Now, hopefully, when this rotates round and faces this, we should get our kelp. Yep, there we go. Excellent. Kelp acquired. So then we can just cook it down here, I guess. So I just need to make another one of these over here. Okay, that's the second one in. And downstairs, because this one's actually outside the room, it drops off here, and then they roll across, go into these tubes, and once again just drop on the floor currently. So let's at least get those going into a barrel. Now what we want to do is cook the kelp, and we can do that down here. We've got plenty of space. Now, cooking the kelp should be quite easy. I don't think we need a load of space for it. If we put a barrel here, put a fan at the back with a campfire in front of it, just like that. Now we do of course need power over here, but it looks like we have a power connection just over here. So what I'm going to do is just link this across, just like that, and we'll see how that's going in here. Is that going out? Yep, that's definitely going in the right direction. So we appear to have our particles turned off. There we go. So let's just make this a little bit safer. Yeah, perfect. Output for the kelp there. And we want an input here, but we want that to be dried kelp. So let's actually reverse that back round for now. And I need to get power over to this belt. That is going the wrong way. There we go. So that's going to cook our kelp. Filter that box for cooked kelp. Make that an input. Perfect. Now what I want to do with the kelp is split it. So if we just do this, put an andesite tunnel there, the draw controller slave, an andesite funnel, and we can just connect that up to storage. Then the other half I want to send into a crafting grid, but it just needs to be a 2x3. Then I'll need a cog there. Get that power. Then if we put an andesite funnel there and one there, what that should do is send half of it into there, which is then going to make belts. And I was hoping it would send the other half this way, but it doesn't appear to be doing that. Let's just turn that off for now. Let's try a brass tunnel. Aha, there we go. Perfect. And now we're storing kelp and belts. Let's just get some keys on these. And I should probably get some storage upgrades on these as well. So I've just given each box a void upgrade and one diamond upgrade. We'll end up with 8,000 of each of those. In fact, I'll tell you what, we don't even need that many belts. So one box is still going to be able to hold over 2,000 belts. I'm sure that's going to be plenty. And this doesn't look too bad up here. But once we get a whole bunch of kelp, we can do a bit of decoration in this room, get some blocks of dried kelp around. But I think the vats work quite nicely. So, next up, electron tubes, and we're going to do that up here. Now, to make electron tubes, the first things we need to do is to make rose quartz and then polish it. To polish it, we can just use a mechanical grindstone in a drain, and that should do exactly what we need. And once we've got the rose quartz, we just need to feed it into the top of a mechanical grinder. Nope, mechanical crafter, that's what I meant. So, in fact, we can probably do that at this height. So we'll feed the polished rose quartz up to here. Then over here, we're going to need iron sheets. So we'll just put a press in there. And it does occur to me, we actually need 2 ingredients going into the bowl. So let's do this. We need redstone coming out of one. And I need to steal a bit of quartz to set the other filter. There we go. And we want exactly one of these. And we want exactly 8 of these. So that will make our rose quartz. That will then get polished over here, get fed into these, and then back into the system. Then on this side, we're going to need a filter for iron. Just have those at one at a time. And now we just need to get all this powered up. So let's just steal that from this room. We'll put some shafts going across here, bring that down, and then that's those belts going in the right direction. Then we're going to need cogs to make those go in opposite directions. It means we're probably going to need to punch out a hole here so that we can get shafts going like that. I think that's going to work. Let's just connect these up. Okay, we've got the redstone coming through, but the quartz is not. Probably because we have no quartz in here right now. Why is that? Because I made a bit of a boo-boo with my system here. I blocked off the water from being able to wash this stuff down the bottom. So let's just raise these trims up. Now that stuff should wash. We should start getting lots of quartz again. Yep, there we go. Look at that. So we're starting to get some quartz up here now. This is good. Just need to power the mixer. That's easy enough. We just need that and a cog. And there we go. We're getting rose quartz. So we just need to power this belt and press, and that should start making our iron sheets. So I just need to connect up the last of this storage. So let's go underground. There we go. Although I do need to power the mechanical crafters. And there we go. Everything is now powered. We're making them very, very fast. In fact, these electron tubes, this is great. So we now have a steady supply of those. Now, something I do want to do is create a centralized storage area for all the things we're producing in this factory so far. Having the boxes all spread out like this is not particularly helpful. So let's pick these up. Also want the redstone one. Take all the ones from the blaze farm. We want the kelp ones. Means we can get rid of all these boxes here as well. The nether wart ones. And I think we should use this wall over here to store all this stuff. That's everything we're producing so far. Just need to hook that into the storage system. There we go, and then we'll just gradually fill this wall in as we build more stuff. But I believe now that we're making the electron tubes, we should have everything we need being produced to be able to start crafting these things. But we're going to need more space. We're going to need lots and lots of crafting space because pretty much all of these require crafters to create. Although some can be mixed, such as the cogs. That's good to know. In fact, the clutches can be mixed as well, as can the gear shifts, the encased chain drives. Oh, I tell you what, loads of this stuff can just be mixed. The water wheels, of course, are going to need mechanical crafting, as are some of the more complex things, such as, well, crushing wheels for a start. In fact, it looks like we're going to need a whole bunch of crafting tables, or mechanical crafters, I should say. Although, I suppose what we could do is just have a few different crafters set up and then use the frogport system to actually deliver things and get them made. That could potentially work. But basically, lots of mixers and lots of shaped crafters is pretty much what we need. I'll tell you what, something else we're not actually producing over here yet is slime balls. We could really do with slime balls. Best way for us to do that, of course, is going to be dough and lime dye, which means, well, to make a dough, we're going to need wheat flour. So we're going to need basically a wheat farm so we can make dough. And then we're going to need lime dye. Now, making lime dye could be a bit of a pain, but Yeah, if we just make one bucket of it, we can do it this way. Now, when it comes to wheat, we do already have a wheat farm. Although it's out of render distance, it's over there somewhere. We've got a great big wheat farm. But to be honest, we're so rarely over there, I doubt we've got a big stock of it. Because when we are over here, it's probably being fed to all the animals in the barn. Yep, we have exactly 0 wheat. So let's not import it from over here. I think we're going to need a separate farm. Doesn't need to be a big wheat farm. We're not going to need loads of slime, but we're definitely going to need some. Now, if we were to have a tiny wheat farm, we could potentially squeeze one in down here. And I'm glad I just came down here because I've realized we're not actually feeding the belts that we're making into anything at the moment. So let's feed them down there and connect up that trim. But yeah, we could do a small wheat farm down here. Don't really have room in the greenhouse area. I want to leave space here because we've got the garage doors. It wouldn't make sense to completely block it up. We don't really have space in here. But although there's a bit of space in the middle of this floor, I don't think having a wheat farm in the middle of the metal production is a good idea. And we certainly don't have the space up here for it. Unless we were to have a raised one, we could have like a mezzanine floor up here with the wheat. That could work. So I don't really want to make a whole new building just for a small wheat farm. And as I say, we're not going to need loads of it. Ooh, how about we put one on a roof somewhere? Here we go. Big flat roof. Why don't we stick a wheat farm up here? That's an idea. If we just have a little look of what's going on underneath. Okay, so it's here, is it? Which means we're not going to have a lot of space. What's through this wall? All right, this brings us out at the top of this room, so we could just put some stairs in that bring you up here. Although, to be honest, there are already stairs down here that go up. So I guess we don't necessarily need that, but we are going to need to bring the wheat in here after we harvest, so we could do that via that wall. All right, I reckon this could work. We just replace a portion of this roof, say this much here. Then we'll put up a bit of a border of some kind, fill the middle with dirt, and then just have a harvester that goes backwards and forwards, offloads into there. Okay, cool. Yeah, I reckon we can easily do slime. Let's quickly get that sorted now, and then that can start producing while we start planning a giant factory building. But to build this field, I'm going to need a whole bunch of stuff I don't have. Oh, I do have the harvesters, though. That's something. So we can at least get these in. So if we just have something like this that will need to run on a minecart track. So I guess we're going to have to lower this bit here a bit. So we'll put a minecart track in there. That'll run backwards and forwards. We'll have a big field in here. And then we'll offload it into there. I do actually have a lot of the minecart stuff on me that I need. In fact, I think I have everything. I don't have a pulse timer, however, because I just want to harvest this field sort of every minute or two, really. I don't want it going backwards and forwards constantly. But we're going to pulse timer with a pulse extender on here, and that's going to set this off. Got the track at this end powered, so it will bounce back. I think we're good. Let's just get this field planted and get the timer going. Right, there we go. Field is planted and hydrated, and we're reaching both sides. I did have to add 2 water sources, but that's fine. Now we just need a pulse timer down here, set to go off every minute. And a pulse extender for a second, just to make sure that the tick that this gives out is actually picked up and carried through. So now what we need to do is take the items out of here and get them over there somewhere where we can process them. In fact, let's not worry about that for now. Let's build the processing area first, and then we'll figure out how we're going to feed it over. The processing area should be fairly straightforward. So we just need to get power to that fan. That is blowing in the right direction. We're going to need that belt going that way. We're going to need a basin here that's being pumped full of water. So if we were to do something like this and just create a sort of blocked in area, fill that with water, turn that way, the cog on top, then a couple of those. Yep, there we go. That's filling that up with water. Then we need another belt in here. So now that's got water, we'll stick a mixer on top. So that's going to make our dough. To make dough, we need wheat flour. So we'll make that here by crushing down wheat. But that is also going to produce the seeds. So I wonder, can we get rid of that nice and easily? Maybe just a drawer, which we can put here, just to grab all the seeds and void them away. Now, if we put a drawer input here, and once we've got some, we'll filter that just for slime balls. Now, all we need to do is get the wheat down from up there, and I reckon we can probably do something like this. In fact, because this thing comes to a complete stop, we can probably completely avoid portable storage interfaces altogether. So we can just do that. Just realized I haven't actually glued all of this together, so let's quickly do that. That'll be helpful. We can remove that. Does occur to me we also need to power this mixer. Right, now we just need to go get a few bits of lime dye from storage, make a bucket of lime dye, which we can probably just do in here, and then dump that over here. Then as soon as we get wheat coming in, we should be in a good position. So let's chuck the lime dye in there, and we'll put that there. I guess all we need now is a bit of wheat. So let's just chuck in some tester wheat. That's giving us wheat flour, which is making dough, and we're getting slime balls. Wonderful. So if we do that, rotate that round, then we can add another barrel over here, lock it, give it a void upgrade, give it some diamond upgrades. There we go, slime balls coming in. Excellent. So now we should have everything we need to be able to make all of the Andesite Age Create components. We just need somewhere to actually make them. And I'm thinking, great big factory on this corner here. Let me quickly sleep so it's a bit nicer out here. I'm thinking what we want to do is have a giant factory here for this. Right, let's just jump into free cam. So if we have a look at our rig so far, it's looking pretty good. We've got lots of little buildings, lots of little factories. But this next place is potentially going to be processing quite a lot. And I think we need a bit of height variation here as well. So instead of doing a great big sprawling factory this way, why don't we do some kind of a 4 or 5 story building in here that's a bit like a skyscraper type thing, just so we don't end up with a completely flat top on the oil rig, which is kind of where it's heading at the moment. But if you can imagine a great big industrial building on the side here, maybe overhanging a bit, maybe with its own loading docks, who knows? I think that's the kind of thing we want to be going for. Just got to decide what to build it out of. Now, on looking at the rest of the oil platform, we've got lots and lots of light-colored buildings on the top here. Lots of color going on. So I think what we might do is actually use some darker blocks over in this corner and create a taller building. Because although I do want the oil rig to look good from every direction, this is the kind of main viewing area, sort of looking this way. Just because I like the look of it with the train track coming out as well. So a nice big, tall, dark building in the background there could actually look pretty good. So let's go get a dark palette, crank on some music, and get building. Well, it's about 3.5 hours later, but we now have a giant building. I actually ended up using a schematic cannon after building the first couple of levels just to duplicate that, and then I duplicated this level here back onto the top again. But I don't think it notices, and it was a much quicker way of doing this building because it was taking quite a while, but I really like how it's come out. We've got this crane shipping loading area in the middle here. Got lots of greenery and foliage. We've got some solar panels on the roof. Around the back here, I've kept it a bit more plain because there are, of course, going to be other buildings on the side here, but not as plain as I have with the ones in the past, so at least we're improving, I guess. And then I've just added some details and connections onto the other buildings up here as well. On the inside, we've got 5 floors with plenty of space on each one. But on the bit that's actually inside the oil rig, I've decided not to do anything here to make the building bigger. I think we're just going to stick to the upstairs so that we've got plenty of space for routing all of the mechanical stuff. But I'm really pleased with how this has come out. Now I guess we need to start actually designing a factory. Basically working out exactly how we're going to be processing everything in here. So I best grab a clipboard and make a bit of a plan. Well, it's the next day in real life, and yes, I'm aware that I'm actually still dressed as a pirate. I'm wearing my JCSMP skin, and I think I might have actually been wearing it all video so far. I will get better at changing skins, I promise. But I spent all evening thinking about how I wanted to do this to make it as efficient as possible and hopefully not break things. And this series is called Perfect World Post-Production, so I think it's about time we started making use of frogs, the delivery system, the package systems, and all that fancy stuff. That being said, we are going to use drawers to bring the initial ingredients into this area, but we're going to store everything in a vault up here on the top floor. We're then going to use frogs and packages and everything to distribute everything throughout the factory where it needs to go. And then we are going to store the final products in drawers as well, so that they're actually connected to our storage system. But the factory itself is going to be all packages and frogs and chain conveyors and fun things like that. So I have with me a number of clipboards. And what I've done is taken this list of items here, which is everything we want to produce up here, and separated them into the different methods for making them. So we're going to be mixing these things, we're going to be using deployers for these, and then we need crafting for all of these things. There's a lot of these things. But we've got a great big building here. So what I've done is worked out what we're going to have on each floor, and the top floor is going to be the vault that's going to store everything. It's going to have the drawer controller with the packager that's actually going to supply the ingredient vaults. We're going to have a chute trail that goes from here all the way down to the ground floor. And that's how we're going to distribute the ingredients to the floors they need to be on. And we're going to have the control wall, which is going to be a wall of gauges, which basically tells everything to basically craft and restock and things like that. Next floor down, we're going to have a giant crusher for making the crushing wheels, and then we're going to have 4 3x3 crafters, and they're the ones that we're going to be sending all of these things to get crafted. And we're going to take a leaf out of Chosen Architect's book for when we do this. By storing all the ingredients in the same vault, we shouldn't have any problems with things backing up, and we shouldn't need any repackagers, because I always seem to have trouble with those. Next floor down, we're going to have smaller crafters, because some recipes we just need 1 or 2 crafters, so they're going to be on a separate floor. We're going to make the andesite casings, because that needs the saw and deployers. And then we're going to have the other deployers for making the cogs. Next floor down, we're going to have mixers, and we're going to store some of the final products. And the ground floor's going to be storage as well, because I think I want to actually do some themed storage in this building. So the bottom floor should look quite cool and unique, but also still be connected to the storage drawer system. So that's the plan. And we are up here on the top floor, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is get the storage drawers linked up here, so we can actually get the items out and put them in a vault. And we're also going to put in the chutes that are going to go through all the different floors. So we've got some framed trim here. We're going to use this just so it ties in with the building a bit nicer. And we're just going to bring these storage drawers all the way up to the top, and then we'll get all the chutes in going all the way down as well. Though to be honest, we're probably not actually going to need the chutes on the bottom floor, because we're not going to be doing any crafting or anything here. Then up here on the top floor, we're going to have a nice big vault. Let's make that a maximum size vault. So what I've actually done is just move the funnel over by a block. That way we can get a packager on here. That will send packages over this way. They'll then get unpackaged here. And then we're going to create a new network, which is actually going to need a separate packager, because we don't want items coming out of this one. With an input into a vault, then the packages will go down the tube, and that's how we're going to distribute things around. Now we're going to try and set up the requesting system. And to do that, we actually need to put a secondary stock link on this packager here. We're going to link a gauge to that, so let's do wood. I'm just going to stick that gauge on the side of the container here. I'm going to right-click that and set it to birch logs. Then we're going to link some separate factory gauges to this storage, which is our main storage over here. We're going to set a recipe for this to be birch logs. We're going to set the amount to 64. We're going to add a new connection to there. We'll make sure it's sending 64 and expecting 64. I don't think we need to worry about an address. We can set this to 5 stacks. Ah, no, it is missing we'll set that to 5 stacks, but it says inactive, missing a target address. So we're going to call this Andesite Factory. So we're just going to call this Andesite Factory Vault. Now it should, hopefully, start requesting. Yes, there we go. So the package went across. We should now have some in here. So we've got 1 stack so far, 2 stacks, excellent. And once it gets to 5 stacks, it should stop requesting items from here. Then we should have exactly what we need. Excellent. So I'm just going to put some more gauges on here that are linked to the different networks, so we can build that up a bit more as we need to. But we do know we need redstone, so let's set that to do a stack at a time as well. Set the address the same. Not that it matters, it's irrelevant. It just needs to have something in the box. Let's say we always want 5 stacks of that, because we don't want to be overfilling the vault. We just want to make sure there's always some here. Now, we also want slime over here, but we're not going to need loads, so we'll just have a stack of that. Now, we're also going to need iron over here and andesite alloy. And I'm not sure if there's anything else we need, but we'll just add to that as we need to when we're making the recipes. For example, once we start making andesite casing, we're going to want to make sure we've always got a bit of that up here because that's needed in, well, a whole lot of these crafting recipes. But this is good. This is what we failed to do on Just Create a couple of weeks ago, but I did eventually remember how to do it. Right, so the next thing we're going to need is basically just a great big wall of factory gauges. I don't know how many we're going to need, so I'm just going to chuck down a bunch for now. But this is how we're going to control where stuff is being made. We're going to use these factory gauges to check how many of an item is in our main storage. And if there's not enough, then it's going to send a request to craft some more, which will take the ingredients from here and send them to the right position in the factory to make that happen. At least that's the plan. Hopefully it's going to work. So if we look at our top floor, we've got the vault that's going to store all the ingredients. We've got the drawer controller to supply the vaults. We've got the chute to the ground floor, and we've got a control wall. Guess it's going to be a much more empty floor than I thought. So let's move down to the next floor where we need power. We're going to need power. We don't have any power up here whatsoever. So maybe I should just run that along the wall alongside everything else. So we'll just steal the power from down here. Just send that all the way up to the top. Give it some brackets and a bit of casing to make it look better. Right, there we go. Power. Now, the first thing we need to do is sort out the frog system, or basically how we're going to be moving things around up here. And I'll tell you what, we can probably actually just do that with one chain drive across here like this. Perfect. Then what we're going to have is a filter system here with a package filter that's going to filter for Andesite Factory 4 and a star. And Andesite Factory 4 is just telling me what floor the packages are going to go to. And the star basically means anything can follow that. So, for example, if I wanted to send something to the crushing crafter over here, I can put in the address as AF4-crushing wheels. And this filter will pick it up, bring it over here, carry it into that vault, where this frog here is going to be set to send only, and basically any packages that go in here, he's going to chuck them on this belt up the top here, which does actually need power. I should probably sort that out. So let's stick a vertical gearbox up there. We'll just link that up with a few shafts over to there. Okay, our chain's going. Perfect. So anything sent to this floor is now going to go up here. And what we need up here is 4 individual crafters and a big one for the crushing wheels, which I think I will put over on this wall, you know. Now, the problem with the crushing wheels is I don't think you can actually send it as a crafting recipe because I think that only works with 3x3 grids. Maybe I should hop over to a creative world and do a quick test. Okay, so it didn't work how I wanted it to, sadly, but I have figured out a way we can get it to work. And the reason we can't do automated crafting into anything bigger than a 3x3 grid is because the gauges only have a 3x3 grid. So we can't actually put the recipe in properly. So what I've actually done is just put in the items we need for each crushing wheel. I've just set that to 2 crushing wheels to show that that's how many we're going to get from each thing. And it's going to send those packages over here. The packages get undone into this vault. These are ejecting exactly the amounts needed for each craft, or at least they should be. Did I? Oh, no, I didn't set that one. Whoops, set this one either. Jeez. But now they're going to eject exactly what's needed for each craft. We've then got 3 different arms just set to grab the different items and put them into the right places. Then that crafts our crushing wheels, and we can then send them back into storage. So we just need to build this in the actual world now. A few minutes later, and I've got that set up over here now, and it's much tidier. We have our crafter here. Frog here is the one that's going to grab the items and put them in this vault. They'll then go onto these 3 depots, which are set to actually deposit the exact amount that's needed this time. The arms are then going to load up our mechanical crafters. The finished item's going to go into this vault, and then every 20 seconds, it's going to get packaged up and sent off. And what I've done is I've created an AF store here, so Andesite Factory Store, and this is something we can do on every floor where needed. And this is going to grab things that are complete. In fact, I do actually need to put a sign on here, and we need to set an address of AF Store, so anything coming out of here should get picked up by this guy. Then that's going to get unpackaged, put into this vault, and then just fed straight back into the storage system. But I do need to add a storage drawer controller just here inside the storage trim line. There we go, and now that can receive items into storage. However, there is one slight problem. One of the items we're requesting over here, birch planks, we don't actually have yet, because although we're making birch logs, we're not converting anything into planks yet. So I think what I might do is, with all this extra space we've got up here, is just put in a quick saw so that we can take some of this stuff to make planks. So that is going to be our first recipe over here. Let's just set this to logs. Add a new connection to there. 1 log is going to give us 4 planks. We won't worry about setting the address yet, because I need to actually build the machine. So what we actually need is 2 saws in a row, so we can take logs and strip them, and then when we actually saw a strip log, we actually get 6 planks, not 4. That's good. So let's just make sure we've got our recipe set correctly. I have realized I didn't actually get power up to the top floor, so let's quickly do that now. There we go. That's power up here. I put in a chain as well, just so we can build the machine over here and use the same frog system that we normally do. Okay, so this should be fairly straightforward. We just need a belt, a saw, an item drain, a saw, preferably the right way round, and another item drain. Then we need a vault, packager, vault, a packager. We need a frog on there, AF5 planks. We need another frog here, set to send only, with a 20-second timer on the back. Some funnels. We're going to need power, and the reason I put a belt at the start here is because it's going to make it easier to power the saws. That should get the saws going in the right direction with that cog set up. So let's just get some power over here. Okay, that's now all powered. Now, one thing I do need to do is change this setup here that actually sends out things. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have this frog actually set to TF planks, and we've changed this setup so that now this has got AF stars. Anything that's going anywhere else in the andesite factory is going to get picked up by this frog, and anytime a request is made, it's going to go into this packager. This frog's going to stick it on the line, so TF will come over here and AF will go over there, hopefully. But there's only one way to test it, so let's send this to TF planks. Set the target amount as 4 stacks, and let's see what happens. It did not happen as I wanted. It actually just pulled more logs into here. So what I actually need to do is figure out these gauges over here a bit better. Essentially, I think I need 2 separate areas. So this is connected to main storage, so this is for finished products. And then this side is for requesting things from this storage here. So now, if we set that one to a birch log, and we only want planks in here, we don't want to worry about having planks in the main storage, so that would actually be over here as well. And a new connection to there, then set that to TF planks. We'll request 4 stacks. Is that going to work this time? There we go. So that goes up and round. That guy's taking it. We're getting planks. We haven't set an address here yet. So let's set an address for TF store. Then we'll add a new frog here called TF store. And now we should start getting planks in the right place. Right, well, that has now worked. We have 4 stacks of planks. That's going to make sure there's always 4 stacks over there. Now, something else we need to make sure is actually over here in this vault is andesite. So let's put andesite in there and one in there. Connect those up. Look at that. We've got 113,000 over there. So I think we can definitely get away with taking 5 stacks or so for over here. And that's going to start coming out of there, loading up. Excellent. Right, so now we should have everything we need over here to start making our crushing wheels. Make sure it's definitely all set up. The address is AF4 Crushcraft. Oh, and something else I'm going to need is actually a drawer to store these things in. And we are going to make a super fancy nice storage, but for now, I'm just going to chuck some drawers down on the bottom floor. Just along here should be fine. We'll make it look nice later. So now to do the recipe. We're first going to need to monitor andesite in this vault. We're already monitoring planks in this vault. Lastly, we need the andesite alloy from that vault. And over here, put in a crushing wheel. Connect that to the planks, the andesite alloy, and the andesite. Set that to 1. Set that to 16 and set that to 4. That's what we need to make 2 crushing wheels at a time. The address is Andesite Factory Floor 4, Crushcraft. Just going to double check that address. Just make sure that's a capital C as well, just so we don't have any mistakes. I don't know if capitals make a difference or not. Lastly, we just need to set a target amount. And I don't think we're ever going to need more than a stack of these. So that's doing its thing. This should start sending out packages, which get picked up by that guy. Go down here, get picked up. That's loading up our thing. We're making crushing wheels. Excellent. Then that should hopefully go back into storage. Yep, there we go. And if we go up here, we should start seeing this number go up. But let's actually set it to 64, and then we can see exactly how many is in there. Okay, cool. So we've got 4 of them in there. The system's working. It's actually working. But that's just a crafting table dedicated to making one thing, which is a bit more straightforward, I guess, in a way, because it can't clog up the system. However, let's start with some system clogging, shall we? So I need to set up 4 3x3 grid crafting tables with a frog pickup and drop-off system. We're going to number them 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then as we add the recipes that are going to be crafted, we're going to try and equally divide them among all the different crafting tables, just so we don't have one with a massive queue getting overloaded. Now, I'm hoping we can do something quite simple here and basically collect the packages there, go straight into one of these and feed them straight into the crafter. I think that should work. Let's just connect it all as one, otherwise nothing's going to work. And then once it's been crafted, it will go into here. Then we'll have a send-only frog sitting on top. Just need a sign, the AF store. Going to need power, but we can just get that from here. There we go, that's power sorted. Need a 20-second pulse timer here. And we'll call this Tier 4 Crafter 1. Now we just need a few more of those. There we go, that's our 4 crafters, numbered 1 to 4. Just need to add delivery address signs to each of these crafters and some timers. Okay, nice. So if we grab our clipboard, we've done both those things, so the 4th floor is complete. And now I have those crafters, I could start setting up some of the recipes. However, we still don't have all of the ingredients we need to make the recipes that we need for the crafters. I don't think, anyway. Oh no, accidentally just copied loads of stuff. Get out of it. Right, that's better. All cleaned up. Now, let's have a look at some of these crafting recipes. We want to look at the ones that need a full grid, or at least a 3x3 grid, such as gearboxes, chain conveyors. But what I'm seeing here is that we're going to need a bunch of shafts and a bunch of andesite casing before we can do much of anything. So, what floor was the andesite casing going on? The 3rd floor, which is the next floor we need to work on. Okay, cool. So let's go do that. So that's going to be down here. So as with the other floors, let's get some chain conveyors set up first. Now, to make andesite casing, let's do that over here. Going to need a belt that goes into a saw so that we strip the logs. Then we're going to need another belt with a deployer. And this guy's going to deploy andesite on top of them. So they can then be collected and sent off by a frog back to AF storage, which doesn't exist over here yet, so let's quickly make one of those. While we're here, we should probably set up the package filter as well, so we can get things down here. So that's going to be AF3 star, and this frog will send only to packages on there. Perfect. Then over here, we're going to have AF store. He's going to unpack things and then send them into storage. So I just need another storage controller here. And we're going to need to do this little system on every floor, but at least it's a straightforward system. Okay, so here's where things get a little bit tricky for this one, because what we actually need to do is separate the items that are coming in on this frog. So let's get the frog in first. We'll call this Tier 3 casing. So we're going to be sending wood and andesite alloy over here. So we're going to filter the wood down to this bottom level. We're going to filter the alloy up here. And I guess we're going to need an item drain with a chute and a funnel. So that'll send the andesite alloy onto this guy. Logs will come through here, get stripped, turn into alloy, go into there. And we just need a timer behind here. Once again, set to 20 seconds. Need an address on the front. And apart from power, I think that's just about it. Power sorted. Okay. So if we set up the recipe for that now, that should work. So in main storage, we want casing. To get casing, we need a log and an andesite alloy. So let's do a stack at a time. Set this to andesite factory floor 3, and we called it casing, I believe. Let's say we always want 10 stacks of casing, because I feel like that's something we are going to want quite a lot of. Just noticed I did the address on this frog wrong, so let's do that. There we go. So I've noticed a couple of problems. First one being that that belt wasn't working. The second one being that my saw isn't working. So what I'm going to do is just take that out, move everything along by one, put the saw back in, and I just need to reload this with all the logs. Oh, wait a minute. I know what the problem is. In case saws are a bit bugged. So now we're kind of working. I just need to power the deployer. That would help. Right, let's try again. Okay, we're finally getting casings. Something I hadn't considered is we're also getting a whole lot of tree bark, so I guess we'll store a bit of that and void the rest. So if we go check our storage on the ground floor, yep, we now have tree bark in one of them, so let's put a void upgrade on that. I'm sure we have one somewhere. Yep, there we go. So we'll store a bit of it, and then it will just void all the excess. But that means we now have andesite casing going into our main storage. Yep, we currently have 1 out of 10 stacks, which means we can start calling some over here. And we want to make sure we've always got 10 stacks over here as well. So that's going to start taking them from here, and they're going to start showing up over here. Perfect. Now, if we get some shafts crafting as well, then we should be able to start making a whole bunch more stuff. Now, making shafts should be quite simple, and it should literally be as simple as that. So this frog is called AF3 shafts. He's going to grab the package with the andesite in. That's going to make 2 shafts, or 8 shafts, I should say, from 2 andesites. They'll go into here, get packaged up. Just need a timer in the back here for every 20 seconds. And there we go. That's that one done. Easy peasy. So it's as simple as that. We've set the recipe up correctly. We'll get 8 shafts back. The address is set correctly. Let's just set that to 10 stacks. And hopefully we should... No, they can't offload directly into there. That's okay. Which means we are going to have to change our crafters up the top a little bit. Not the end of the world. Just means they're going to take up a little bit more space. Although the ones upstairs might be fine, actually. It's probably just because this is a small crafter. If I do something like this, he should start grabbing all the packages. Put an input there, output there. And it should just keep loading up and crafting them. And that guy's going to send them to storage. Perfect. Now we have shafts, which once again we are going to need over here because they are also an ingredient. Awesome. So now, if for example we wanted to make mechanical drills, all I should need to do is set up the recipe. So we want to first monitor iron from our vault up here. Then we'll put mechanical drill in there. For mechanical drill, we need iron. We need andesite. And we need an andesite casing, which we are once again monitoring from the vault. Then if we use mechanical crafting, we'll send that to AF4, crafter 1. And let's just have it so we've always got a stack of drills available. So if we go down to our crafter, hopefully now, it's going to start making drills. Yep, there we go. We're getting drills. And that shows me that I was right in that because this is a proper sized crafting grid, the packager will feed a package directly into it. But because my shaft crafter is just tiny, that one's not going to work. So I need to start ticking things off that we've done. So next up, let's do water wheels. Should be a nice easy one. So for this one, we need planks and we need shafts. We'll send this stuff to crafter 2. Once again, we'll just have a stack of those, but they're also used in a recipe, which means we need to add them to this wall. So then what we can do is make large water wheels from the small water wheels and more planks. In fact, I've just realized I need to actually link water wheels over to here. There we go. So our water wheels are now also being crafted, and we should start getting large water wheels at any moment too. Although it would help if I actually set a target amount to make. There we go. And that's our large water wheels. Excellent. So basically, I've just got a whole lot of recipes to go through and make up here. For now, I'll be avoiding anything that needs cogs because we're not making them yet. But I should be able to get a good chunk crafted. It's just going to take a while to set up all the recipes, and that's going to be boring to watch. Probably seen enough of it already, to be honest. So let's just cut to this board looking awesome. Well, the board's not looking as beautiful as I'd hoped by this point because it turns out I actually need cogs and iron sheets and copper sheets and all sorts of things to make a whole lot of the things that I want to make, and we're not currently doing that. So let's head back down to the 3rd floor. So I think what I'm going to do is build a giant mechanical press down here. So what we're going to do is just feed into this side. We'll call the frog AF3 press. Case everything to make it look nice. We can still power just from there. We'll get a bunch of presses in and we'll still power from there. We'll feed everything into a box over here. In fact, I'm going to move the presses over by a block just to make it look a little bit better. There we go. Okay, that should just about do it. So let's do iron sheets first. We'll get those from the iron ingots. Send those to AF3 press. Send them a stack at a time. Target amount of 5 stacks. And that should start sending them out. Yep, looks like it. And yep, there we go. The press is in action. Perfect. Now we're also going to need pressed brass. We're going to need pressed gold. And we're going to need pressed copper. So we might as well quickly set these ones up as well. So that's the sheets sorted, but something else we need to be making is cogs, and we can do that with mixers. Now, once again, the mixer should be fairly straightforward. We don't need to do anything fancy because we're going to be sending it as a recipe. So I have 2 mixers dedicated just to making cogs, though I do need to filter that one for large cogs, which means I should now just be able to set up those recipes. All right, the system's working. We're making cogs. So I'm just going to wait for those to build up a little bit in storage, but then we should be able to start making a whole bunch of this other stuff, such as gearboxes, chain conveyors. In the meantime, there's some other things we can start making, such as these fans, because we've now got the iron sheets. So this needs iron and iron sheets. Nope, it's not iron, it's alloy. There we go. So let's make a bunch of the propellers. We've got that set up so that we'll also have a bunch in here, which will then mean if we want to make our fans, we just need a shaft from over there. We need a propeller from over there, and we need an andesite casing. That's the fans done. To make mechanical presses, however, we first need blocks of iron, which means we need a compactor, and I think it makes sense just to put one in on this row. There we go. That should do the trick. Exactly the same setup, just with a press instead of a mixer. So let's just set up the recipe for that. And now we can use those iron blocks to make even more presses. So I think we're actually making all the components I need now to be able to craft a whole bunch more of these things. Oh, planks. Yeah, we're not making wooden slabs at all yet. Let's quickly squeeze that one in up here. In fact, we're going to need another one for making buttons, so we may as well do both at the same time. Then we're going to filter one of these for planks, one of them for buttons. Then we just need to link these up. So for buttons, we just need one plank per one button. So we might as well do a stack at a time. Send that to TF button. And to be honest, we probably only need a stack of those at a time. Then we'll set the planks up to here. Now I also need iron nuggets for some recipes. So let's quickly sort that one out. And we've got this machine set up here, which is going to make the nuggets for us. So that's not going to work, is it? Over-engineered that a little bit. That's all I need. There we go. That's better. Now we're making the iron nuggets. Now let me just have a quick look through. So we're making cogs. We're making big cogs. We're making blocks of iron. We're making all the sheets we need. We've got the slabs coming in now. We've already got slime. We've got a little bit of crafting still to do for copper because we need to make lightning rods. So let's just quickly set that up over here. So that'll make our lightning rods, which means we'll be able to make our transmitters from redstone, copper sheets, and copper rods. So it has just occurred to me that, of course, we are making iron over in the other factory, and it's stored in compacting drawers, which means I don't need this iron setup at all to make the iron blocks. So let's just quickly get rid of this. That was a waste of time. And there we go. I've just imported them from the main factory. Excellent. So I just need to spend a bit of time adding a few more recipes, maybe add a couple more mixers, and then we should have everything crafted. So let's just crack on and get those done. Well, it's not been the easiest thing to figure out, but I think we now have all of the recipes in for our andesite things. We've done that one. We haven't done the packages because we don't have cardboard pulp or any of that sort of stuff up here at the moment. But we're bringing things over to the vault, we're crafting all the things, and it is all gradually getting done. If we go down through our factory, we can see our crafters are working. Got all of our mixers doing things down here. And down the bottom here, we've got a great big wall of all the things we're making and being stored, which is the bit we need to make look nice. But sadly, that's going to have to wait till the next episode because, well, as you can imagine, this has taken a long time to get done. We built a bunch of farms next door, we added a brand new building, and then we've built a lot of farms over here and automated basically the entirety of the Andesite Age. I'd say that's not bad going. But now I must sleep, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye now.